What is your current job title and how long have you been in this role?
All right, well, currently at Valencia, I am a chemistry professor. I've been here since 2011. And then at Walgreens, where I am a staff pharmacist, I have been working there since I moved to Florida in 2004. So was that 10 or 11 years? Yeah,
Oh.
so quite a while.
Okay. How did you land this position?
Well, up north, I did my bachelor's in pharmacy, which you can't get anymore, but back then you could. I got a bachelor's in pharmacy from University of Buffalo, and that's when I got registered as a pharmacist after I took my board exams. And I started working at a pharmacy that became an Eckerd pharmacy. When I transferred from Eckerd to Florida, Eckerd got bought out by CVS, and because CVS gave me such a hard time in the move and the transfer and everything, I decided to go to a competitor, and I worked for Walgreens ever since. So yeah, so I figured CVS was giving me trouble in the whole Eckerd buyout thing and moving to Florida that I said, all right, I'm through all this drama. I want to work for a reputable company, so I chose Walgreens.
They're competitor.
Yep, they're a competitor, and I've been with Walgreens again since 2004. So.
Okay. What do you enjoy most about your job?
For me, the biggest part of it was actually helping people. So I actually went to pharmacy school because not just because I was interested in like medicine and how drugs work in the body, but my grandmother was really really important to me, and I saw her ill consequences from smoking and a lot of health related things there that I really wanted to see if I could use what I kind of learned about health and medicine and things from my grandmother passing, and how I can actually help other people so that that wouldn't happen to them. Sure. So I became an educator and a pharmacist to help spread the news about how you can be healthy and how medicine can help and how you can, really do pretty much everything you want to do and not smoke and all these things. So I do a lot to help promote healthy living as in addition to, of course, dispensing medications, counseling people on how they take their medicines and things like that. So.
I think that's why people should go into it instead of thinking like, oh,
yep.
It's a lot of money.
Yep, I did not actually even think about the money. Well, although I did. For me, I was the first college student of any of my family members. In my family, my dad and my mom and all the people in my family, we didn't go to college. We couldn't afford it, but as soon as you graduated high school, you were expected to go out into the workforce. That's what everybody in my family did. But my dad recognized that it was important, like he knew how important education was and how, like, to go to school and go to college and everything, that he never graduated high school, but he wanted to show my brothers and I the importance of education. So what he did, when I remember this, when I was in high school, he actually went back to school to get his GED to show us how important that was. And that actually gave me the motivation to say, wow, if you can do this and you're a lot older than I am, that means maybe I can go to college and I could be something more than what was typically, our family did. So I was actually the first one to go to college. I inspired my brothers to go to college, so they went to college too. So now we've kind of broken the trend of just, all right, you just work. Who cares about college? Now for me, it broke the cycle of just, living in the town and working in the town and just work to get by. Now you can actually get an education and actually do something you really want to do, but at the same time do something that can help you support your family way more than just going to work. Yeah. So.
Okay. Do you work in a team or independent environment?
I work at a team, so pretty much I started at an independent pharmacy. This was back before Eckerd bought out this independent pharmacy. But still, really, it's all a team environment anyway, whether it's an independent pharmacy or a chain pharmacy like Walgreens or Eckerd or even CVS is. It's all team environment, which is actually good because I have partners that I've worked with at Walgreens for 10 years that I can rely on and who will support me, and obviously I'll support them. So anytime that we need to help each other with regard to covering shifts or helping with patients. I know one thing we do is at Walgreens is we're vaccine educators, and we help vaccinate people too. So I've attended a lot of off-site training and vaccination blowouts where we actually vaccinate like these little towns or communities and things like that. So we kind of help each other. So it's all team environment centered. So without the team, and as well as not just my pharmacist partners, but my technicians, the store managers, we all work together, because without all that support, there's no way that we can get anything done. So.
Okay. What do you like most about your job?
Well, for me, it's just about interacting with people and, helping them out, especially for those that are sick. They may have questions or need something, and if I can step in and help, to me, that's the most enjoyable thing. And I actually have patients that I've been seeing for 10 years, in and out, and some days they come in and everything's great. Some days they come in and they need something, they're not that healthy, they need me to jump in and help out. And to me, if I can help out and then see them through that process and see them get better, that's the most exciting thing, is to actually put your healthy stamp on somebody as they walk away, and you're like, wow, I really think I helped out. And that's the best part. So.
Okay. Don't you like? Like, what's...
Yeah, what's the most challenging part? Well, one issue that we're having in particular, not just in the state of Florida, but in all across the U.S., is employers, especially chain employers, because a pharmacist's job has evolved more than just filling prescriptions and counseling. We do vaccines, we run clinics, I do blood pressures, I take people's blood sugars and things like that. Because our role is expanded, we now have a lot more things to do. But the issue is the chain companies are trying to save money in today's marketplace by taking away some help, and we have to essentially do more with less help, and the prescription volume has gotten higher because people need more medicine, as well as we can give more vaccinations than we ever can. So really the amount of work that we have to do in a day's time has gone up, and the help that they've provided us, with techs and extra hours and overlapping pharmacists, has gone away. So the amount of stuff I have to do every day is a lot more difficult than it used to be when essentially I could focus on one issue, one patient. Now I got to focus on 30 patients at a time and do my best to help each one as to the best of my ability, despite the lack of help and time. Yeah.
Okay, this is not a question, but I just want to know.
Yeah.
How was pharmacy school? Like, what was it like?
It was hard. I mean, and for me, again, everybody thinks that, I'm a pharmacist. I was the most brilliant student. I actually wasn't. I had a lot of troubles. I didn't get into pharmacy school the first time because I did some things that I shouldn't have. For one, I didn't even pay attention to the requirements for pharmacy school. I just went to my advisor. My advisor wrote my schedule, and I didn't even think about it. And then when I realized when I applied to pharmacy school, I was missing a whole bunch of things. Yeah. I'm like, what? So I just wasn't paying attention. So this was back in the day when they would only admit you once a year. Fall time was the only semester they admit. So when I applied and I got denied because I was missing 3 classes, I'm like, oh crap. And that summer I said, I could take these 3 classes over the summer and I'll still be available. So I did that. I took these classes over the summer and I said, I'm still available for the fall. And they said, it's too late.
Wow.
So I had a year to wait. I didn't want to waste a year because I could have gone and just gone to work. I worked at a pizza place. My dad worked for General Motors, and I said I could have gotten a job there. But I said, well, for me, I got a degree in chemistry, which I thought was related to pharmacies. That's why I'm teaching chemistry too. But when I got into pharmacy school, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, especially the first year, because the first year they throw a lot at you, because you have to, and this is one thing I didn't do, when I took chemistry, I took biology, I just thought, okay, I made it through, I probably won't use this stuff again. And it turns out I had to use all the stuff again. You know, the math that I took statistics, and I took calculus,
those are
and all that
pretty
stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. I took the class, I got done with it, I will never have to use it again. Well, all that stuff I realized later I have to start using, and that to me the first year was really hard, like pharmacy math, I had law, I had like thermal, or what was it, it was pharmacokinetics, which was all like chemistry in there, and I'm like, oh God, everything I purposely forgot to make way for new information, and it's back again. So I kind of had to do a lot of like review of all my old stuff. I luckily didn't throw away my chemistry notes and my biology notes, so I just got all that stuff back out, and I made it through. But first year was the hardest, and then once I made it through there, then I realized, okay, I'm not going to forget everything that I learned, and I'm going to take everything from my first year and apply it to my second year, and it got easier from there. And then once you went out to clinical rotations, to me that was the most exciting, because I got to work in a hospital, I worked in a poison control center, I worked at a retail pharmacy, I worked at a whole bunch of places that I'm like, I never would have had that experience otherwise. And now I realize, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to work in a hospital? Do I want to work in a research lab? Do I want to work in a retail setting? I chose retail for many reasons. One, I liked the retail setting. I liked, being the pharmacist there, and people come in and I can talk to them and I can help them out. And nothing against hospital. Like I was this close to taking a hospital position, but it's changed now. Now hospitals are completely different. But the hospital job I could have taken, half of my time was awesome, where I was actually helping keep transplant patients alive before transplant. It was so awesome. That was 20 hours out of the, actually I think it was 25 hours out of the 50 hours that you had to do. And that was awesome. That's exactly what I wanted to do, because I'm learning, like, all my knowledge I can apply to like what medicines you need, what your lab reports are, how can I keep you alive. The other half was working in the basement of the pharmacy, just checking off med carts and things like that to make sure that, and yeah, checking to make sure that the medicines are correct is important, but that was 25 hours of my day just sitting there check marking these things off. I was going crazy. And I was like, to me, I liked half of it. And then retail, I liked the whole thing. I liked, you can come in, get a prescription, I can talk to you about it, what else can we do, I can take your blood pressure, things like that. So to me, that was really exciting. So that's why I went down that path. So I think that when you go to your clinical rotations, you really get a lot of experience of like, all right, what do you want to do? Do you want to go? There's like 5 different ways you can go. I mean, I have people that I went to pharmacy school with that still work in a hospital, work in retail. A couple of my friends went into research and development. One of them is a drug rep. So he goes around promoting particular drugs from a company. So, I mean, there's so much you can do depending on what your strengths are. Yeah. I know a couple, I just got a postcard from one of the people that I graduated with way back in the day. And he opened his own pharmacy. Oh, wow. So he's got an independent pharmacy. It's his own stamp on it. I even saw his little postcard where it shows the pharmacy, it shows his name and everything. I'm like, wow. I was like, that's really cool. I mean, there's a lot of work there to open your own pharmacy, because you got to do it all. Yeah. He did get his MBA, so he has like his master's in like finance and things like that too, so which is good. And that's I don't have, so I don't think I can do that. But I was like, there's so much you can do with pharmacy. It's just a really exciting time. And I know some people that I work with, think the opposite. They're like, they want the old school where you just check medicines. And for me, that's not the exciting
Yeah.
place. The exciting place is, what can I do to help somebody? And I think it's nice now that you can counsel, you can take people's blood pressure, you can give them vaccines. And actually, right as I was graduating with my PharmD, and I actually had to go back to school because I couldn't afford to get my PharmD right off the bat, so I had to actually go work because I was pharmacy school put me so much in debt because we didn't have any money that I had to take out so many loans. I bought a car for like $500 and the car sucked. So like everything that I had hinged on the fact that I had to pass pharmacy school and start working. So I had to work for a year before I could actually go back to school again, so that I could actually afford to take out more loans to actually to get my doctorate. But back then we were talking about how we can start giving vaccines, and that was only the job of a doctor or a nurse, right? Until we started to expand our role as a pharmacist, and now it's just, people come in and say, hey, can I get my blood pressure taken, or can you give me a flu shot, and oh yeah, I need my medicine refilled. So these are all things that I can do now that I couldn't do back when we were just like dispensing medicines. So it's a really cool time. So I think
It sounds fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a lot of work, and in pharmacy school, it's not easy. But if you work hard at it, you can make it through, and it's definitely rewarding. And while the money is good, for me, it's way more than that. It's just, for me, and I tell my students this all the time, that I went to school for the wrong reasons. And it wasn't, I realized it later when I got into pharmacy school, and it wasn't because of the money, because I was a family without money. We didn't know what money was. So for me, money wasn't a motivation. But my motivation, I didn't realize this until afterwards, was after I went to pharmacy school, I realized that I was actually trying to bring my grandmother back to life, because what had happened was, this is actually what motivated me to go to pharmacy school, was I remember one day that she had a heart attack, and it was because of her years of smoking, and walked into the hospital with my family, and myself and my two brothers, she liked to speak to each one of us individually, which was fine, because she treated each of us as an individual. So I asked her, I remember this moment, and I'll never forget it, but she asked me, she said, or I asked her, I said, well, how are you doing, Grandma? Because I didn't think about anything, well, like, what else could I ask her in the hospital? Obviously she's not doing well. And she said, oh, it's good, I'm a little tired, I want to get out of here, and I have this like painful sensation in my leg, but I'm fine, I just want to go home and get out of here. So I said, okay, yeah, whatever. And I was 13, I didn't know anything. So she goes home, and she had an apartment in Buffalo, where close to where one of my buddies lived. And I went to my buddy's house that night, and I heard an ambulance run by the house, and I knew where it was going. I was 13, so I just ran, because I didn't have a car, so I ran to my grandmother's house, and I saw the ambulance, them put her into the ambulance, and I was the last one to see her alive. What had happened was, she had a blood clot in her leg that dislodged, went to her heart, and stopped her heart, and she died. And for me, the part that really upsets me, and the reason I went to pharmacy school, I realize it now, is that all I had to do was communicate. All I had to do, she told me about it, and I just chose to ignore it or just to pretend it was nothing. All I had to do was say something to my parents, say something to the nurse, say something instead of saying nothing, and she could have lived.
Yeah, but when you're in the moment, you don't think.
No, you don't. I didn't even think about
Yeah.
it, but at the same time, and I realized going through pharmacy school that every person that I was trying to help, or every, like, when I started teaching, every student that I helped reach, I guess I was thinking that maybe I would do enough to bring her back to life or something, so I would kind of like redeem myself somehow, which I know is not possible. Everything I could do could never bring her back to life. But I try to use that now as a motivation to say, wow, if all I had to do was say something. So I make my students the promise, I make my patients the promise that I will always communicate with them. If they think there's a problem, talk to me, we can work it out. But you can't tell me after the fact when something has gone wrong, because there might not be a chance to correct it then. So I realized when I went to pharmacy school after I graduated, I realized that I had done it because I had hoped to kind of redeem myself for what had happened, which I know is not possible, but I think a whole lot of good happened from that moment. So and one thing I did make my grandmother the dying promise to never do is to smoke. I've never had a cigarette ever touch my lips. I did that out of respect. I would never do that to myself, and of course, I tell all my patients, especially those smokers, what can we do to help you quit? Because I saw firsthand what it does, and it's awful.
It's really bad.
Yeah. So, but that's my motivation to go to pharmacy school was actually to, I saw my grandmother, but I know that she's looking down and saying, "You've done the right thing," and she's proud of me. But boy, I look at that moment and I just say, why didn't I just say something?
Yeah.
But you can't go back and change it. You just move forward and try to do something good with that.
Yeah. But this is my first semester here, so I'm just taking my prereqs because you need to pay attention to those to see.
Yes, I'm glad. Don't do what I did. For me, I was in a daze. I didn't know what I was doing. Pay attention, work hard, and I was a hard worker, but I don't know. I guess I just never saw the importance of a lot of the things that I did at first. Those first few classes I looked at, and I said general chemistry, whatever, biology, whatever.
Yeah, I take biology next semester.
So good. Now make sure that when you do it, know that there's a reason you're doing it, and you'll be using that stuff. It's not that you're doing it for no reason, and even like English and reading and math, all these things where you think, oh, this is just a prereq to get me to pharmacy school. There's a reason for all of it, and I didn't realize that until after I needed it and I forgot it, or I didn't use it, or I didn't apply it right. There's always a reason for the classes that you take. Now, some of them, there might be less correlation with things. I know, like some religion classes and certain things you need to take, but they do open your mind to certain things that you may never realize you need until later. So I remember taking a statistics class, which I couldn't believe how much statistics there was in pharmacy school. I'm like, what? And same with I took a communications class, and I was like, whatever, communications. Then I realized that I was in pharmacy school giving seminars to people, and I'm like, speech. Oh my God. I'm like, what? I never thought I'd see that, but everything is important. Everything is important, so just don't assume that it's just some requirement to check off of a list. If I would have known, if I could go back to my previous self and kind of shake myself and say, wake up, because you're going to need this. Oh, I would have loved to do that, but I think if you have the good mindset and go into it and say, all right, I'm taking this for a reason, there's a purpose for this, and while it's going to get me to my goals, I'm going to be using some of this. Please don't, downgrade anything that you're doing now, because while it might be a couple of the first steps, it's important, to get up to that point. So you can do this.
Thank you.
No problem. My pleasure.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, no problem. Yeah,
but thank you so much
anytime.
For meeting me.
Heck, if you need me for anything, I'll give you my cards. I have plenty of them up here. I don't need them all, but if you want to call me, email me, if you have any questions about anything, as you're getting into chemistry and such, I can help you there.
For my teacher.
So that's good. So let me know. I can always help out.
Okay.
As well as if you want to go back and start working. One thing that I screwed up that I didn't realize, again, one of my number of screw-ups is I got into pharmacy school, and all the people I went to pharmacy school with, they said, well, what pharmacy are you working at? I'm like, I'm not working at any pharmacy. I was working at a freaking pizza place because that's where I knew to work, and that's where I was getting money and paying for my apartment. And they're like, dude, you should probably work for a pharmacy because you need that experience. Because I remember my first year in pharmacy school, everybody was smarter than me. Because everybody already worked at a pharmacy, they knew pharmacists, I knew nobody. And I didn't work in any type of healthcare setting, I knew nothing. And I walked in, everybody knew everything. And I felt like I was like the stupidest kid in the room. So going back, working is so important. That experience is as valuable as the information in school. And I didn't realize that either. But as soon as somebody said, why aren't you working, I walked right out of my classroom, went to an independent pharmacy and said, I need a job. And luckily, the guy was like, you're in pharmacy school? I can figure this out. And I started like as the checkout guy, just checking people out, knowing nothing. And then I worked my way up to, you know, an intern to a pharmacist.
Yeah, my teacher was like, make sure that, like, when we left that class, that we got registered, like, right away.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big thing. She
Yep.
gave us the application, everything.
Yep.
She said, just turn the money in and just do it.
And do it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's, I think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I was like,
Don't
okay.
be like me.
I just
so
listened to
stupid.
her.
But I learned a lot. And
Yeah.
with me, I learned a lot from my mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, but I didn't use those mistakes to say, oh, maybe I can't do this. You know, I used my mistakes to say, oh, man, I screwed that up, but let me go fix it now.
Yeah.
Like, whatever I can do to fix it now, I'm going to fix it now. And
That's a good mindset.
it is. And you'll make mistakes in everything you do, but you could do one of two things. You could like learn from those mistakes and move further, or you can just, let's say, shy from those mistakes and say, I'm done with this. And I hope it's not number two, because you can always be bigger than your mistakes. And I know that based on so many things I've done wrong, but I've moved further than I ever thought I could. So I never thought I'd be here. I honestly thought I would be working at a pizza place or working at General Motors, like putting two parts together. I thought that was my job. I thought that's what I would be doing forever. I never thought I could go as far as I could. So,
But you did.
but I did.
Yes.
So it's possible, right? So it's possible for everybody. So, cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
This gives me motivation because
You can
I
do
feel
it.
like I
Yeah.
couldn't do it, but now I feel like I
You can do it. You can do it. I know you can. I mean, you have a good head on your shoulders based on the questions you've asked and based on what you've already done. And yeah, keep it up, because there's no looking back at this point. There's only moving forward. So yeah, you got this.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.